Now we want to start with chapter number 10, which is circles, and here we want to learn about how a circle and a line interacts. Well, in your previous grade, in grade 9, you have already learned, you have had some exposure to circles. So you learned there about how a line and a circle interact, but those lines were inside the circle. You have learned how a chord, it's not how you didn't learn to calculate the measure of the angle subtended by an arc or a chord. Rather, you learned about the angles they subtend at the circle at any point, and what is the relationship between those angles. And then you learned about what happens when we draw a perpendicular to a chord. It bisects it, and some other things I can't recall them. So it was mostly about a line and a circle, but inside the circle. But what about a line outside the circle? That's what we are going to learn about in this chapter, that how a line outside the circle and a circle interact and what are the properties associated with them. But before we dive into the chapter, I want to cover some basics so that you have a good grasp over what we are talking about, the terms when we use in this chapter, you know what we are talking about. So the first is radius. You know that what is a radius. It's a line that we draw from the center of the circle to any point of the circle, and its distance is always constant or the same. So you can draw it like this here, then like this here, then like this here. The distance is always going to be the same. Then a chord. So a chord is a line that joins 2 points on a circle like this. It's a line segment, actually. It's not a line. A line can be of infinite length, but a line segment is a very finite length of that segment. So it's a section of a line segment. So it joins 2 points, but you see it is also in a way just within this circle. It's not outside this circle. So a chord joins 2 points on a circle. Then we have secant. A secant is a line that intersects a circle at 2 distinct points. That means somehow you will have to draw a secant from outside the circle. If you draw it from inside the circle, you can go in one direction, but let's say if you start at the center, you might go in either direction, up or down, but once you start it, you can go only in one direction. So somewhere you have to start it outside the circle so that we can enter the circle and then go outside the circle. That's how it will intersect a circle. Let's see how. Like this. So a secant will always intersect the circle at 2 points, not at 1 point, rather 2 points. So that means it will have to enter the circle and then exit the circle. So can I say that a secant is a chord? Or maybe when I shrink this secant to the extent that it just is very, very close to the point, to the circle's boundary, that it seems like it's touching the boundary just like a chord. Well, then no, because it will not be intersecting the circle, it will just be touching the circle. So it would become a chord, but then it won't be a secant. So a secant can never become a chord. Doesn't matter what you do, doesn't matter how much you reduce the size of this line. It will always intersect the circle. That's what the definition is. So it will never be a chord because a chord will just touch 2 points of a circle. But you can see that there is going to be a chord in the secant. I mean, this segment of chord, I can just fit it into the secant. So a chord will be in a secant, but a secant is never a special case of a chord. Then tangent, and that's what we are going to learn a lot about in this chapter. The chapter is all about tangent. So what it is, it's a line touching a circle at only one point. Well, it says touching, not intersecting. That means we draw a line to a point, but it doesn't intersect the circle, rather it just moves away from it. I haven't drawn the animation here. We are going to see in the chapter when we do these exercises, when we learn how to draw a tangent, that it touches a point, never intersect the circle, never going out inside the circle, rather just moving away from it. So that's what a tangent is, and that's what we are going to learn. So far we have learned in circles, we have learned how a circle and a line behave when the line is inside a circle. Now we are going to learn about how a line and a circle interact when a line is outside the circle. And you are going to use what you already know from your previous grade here. Now we are going to go further. We are going to learn more about what happens when outside the line, and we are going to use what you already know. So I will dive into the chapter in the next video.